You wake to sound before fear has a name. A cartwheel drags across wet stone, iron grinding slow, unwilling. Not the brisk clatter of market morning, not voices, just movement without purpose, is Apritino 3. You are inside the walls of York, less than 200 yards from Micklegate Bar. The air is cold enough to sting the throat. Damp timber, spent ash, and beneath it something sore. You recognize it at once. Your body remembers before your mind does. This city has known the plague. Everyone knows that. The parish books still list the bad years 1586, then again in 1597 when more than 1,000 died, nearly 1 in 10 of York's people. Back then, the city held perhaps 10,000 souls. Now it holds closer to 12,000. You try not to measure the present against the past, but numbers creep in anyway. They always do when survival becomes arithmetic. You step into the street, cloak drawn tight. Rain from the night still slicks the stones. A cat slips along the wall, quick and low, avoiding open space. You breathe shallow without meaning to. At Ow's Bridge, the River Ouse moves steadily, brown and quiet. A ferry boat is tied unmanned. By this hour there should be shouting, complaints about tolls, the splash of poles. Instead, there is only water and waiting. At the shambles, hooks hang empty. One butcher stands alone, wiping a board already clean. He has heard of a death near Bootham. Fever first, then swellings. 3 days, perhaps less. No order has been given yet, no house sealed. But everyone understands what 3 days means. The plague does not announce itself. It relies on memory, and York has plenty of that. Prices are already shifting. Bread that cost 1 penny in March now costs 2. Barley is dearer still, up by half since winter. Carts from the villages east of the city turn back sooner, reluctant to pass the gates. 1597 they did the same. You remember the hunger that followed almost as clearly as the sickness. Trade slows before illness is ever confirmed. Nearest Crux Parish Church, people stand closer than necessary, speaking softly. A woman crushes rosemary in her sleeve for the smell. Another presses a cloth soaked in vinegar to her nose. These gestures are older than most of the people making them. They are not learned from books, but from watching others survive. Or at least believe they did. Someone mentions London. Word has traveled north faster than wagons. In January 1603, the plague returned there in force. By year's end, more than 30,000 will be dead. Queen Elizabeth died in March, after 45 years on the throne. A new king is coming. An old disease has arrived first. The timing unsettles people, as if order itself has slipped. On Petergate, you notice a house shuttered early. 2 days ago it was open. You remember because now you remember everything. At noon, the bell of Smerry Bishophill rings twice, then stops. Not 3. Heads turn together. Someone counts under his breath. 2. Silence. Relief spreads thinly, briefly. We know this moment because it was written down. City clerks in 1603 recorded not only deaths, but absences. Markets cancelled, courts delayed, watchmen doubled at the gates from 6 to 12 per shift. They never wrote the word fear. They did not need to. Fear shows itself in what ceases to happen. By evening, chalk appears on a door near Wormgate. Just a mark, no guards yet, no 40-day quarantine. But it is enough to make you cross the street. Enough to tell you the city is listening to itself. This is not collapse. Not yet, this is the pause before agreement. The moment York realizes it remembers too well. You lie awake counting Bell's footsteps, days. 1603. The city has not changed yet, but it has begun to think differently. And once that happens, nothing ever returns quite the same. You move through the days as though the city is holding its breath, and you with it. Normality clings stubbornly at first. The market opens twice a week as always. Bells still mark the hours. Children still run errands. But everything is done faster now, with eyes already turning away. In early May 1603, York's courts meet less often, and when they do, benches sit half empty. People say it is coincidence. They say the weather turns stomachs. They say anything that delays saying the word aloud. Denial has a sound. It sounds like laughter arriving a moment too late. It sounds like prayers spoken louder than usual inside All Saints by the pavement, as if God might miss them otherwise. It sounds like merchants insisting their cloth is clean, that it has come from safe towns, that it has not passed through infected hands. You hear these assurances repeated, almost word for word, as though memorized. Repetition becomes a kind of charm. Say it often enough, and perhaps it will be true. By mid-May, the unease thickens. Watchmen linger longer at Bootham Bar and Wongate Bar, counting carts, asking where they came from, how long they stayed. Travel into the city slows. Travel out slows faster. People begin measuring distance in days instead of miles. 40 days, 30 days, 7 days. Numbers settle into conversation like old friends. They do not leave easily once invited. You notice movement changing. People favor the center of the street, avoiding doorways. No one leans casually anymore. When two neighbors speak, they stand angled, not face to face. You catch yourself doing the same. Near the River Foss, refuse piles higher than usual because fewer are willing to carry it away. Smell spreads where labor retreats. The city feels slightly misaligned, like a joint knocked out of place. Fear arrives quietly without ceremony. In late May, the parish clerk records 5 burials in a single week at St. Michael le Belfry. In April, there were 2. 5 is not yet catastrophe, but it is enough to be noticed. Enough for bells to toll more often than comfort allows. Enough for households to keep count, comparing one parish to another, as though distance alone might protect them. By June, houses are being shut in earnest. Chalk marks become crosses. A guard is posted outside one door on Hungate, paid 4p a day to ensure no one leaves. 4p is more than many earn, and still men hesitate before taking the work. Standing between sickness and the rest of the city feels too much like choosing sides. Inside those houses, families count time in meals and fevers, not in dates. Belief shifts shape under pressure. Some walk barefoot to churches, hoping humility will spare them. Others avoid churches entirely, convinced crowds invite punishment. Sermons speak of correction and mercy in equal measure. You hear preachers remind congregations that plague is not new, that God has visited before. The comfort lies not in rescue, but in familiarity. If this has happened before, then perhaps it has an ending. Collapse does not arrive all at once. It comes unevenly, like rain leaking through a roof. By July 1603, the number of weekly deaths in York has doubled again. 10 burials become 20. 20 threaten 30. Markets shrink to shadows of themselves. Apprentices are dismissed early. Guild rules are quietly relaxed because there are not enough hands to enforce them. The city bends, not breaks, but the strain shows. The sound of carts becomes constant now. Daylight carts for the sick, night carts for the dead. They keep different rhythms. You learn to tell them apart without looking. The night ones move slower, more carefully, as though speed might anger something watching. You lie awake counting how many pass before dawn, then feel ashamed for counting at all. Adaptation begins without announcement. People settle into routines shaped by absence. Streets once busy grow quiet, then familiar in their quiet. You learn which lanes to avoid, which hours feel safest. Bread is scarce but still found. Water still flows. The minster still stands, unchanged, watching over loss measured in ink and earth. Life narrows, but it does not vanish. And still, nothing feels finished. Summer light lingers late, casting long shadows across stone that has seen worse and survived. You sense the city adjusting itself, learning how to live inside fear rather than ahead of it. This is not the end. Not yet. It is the middle, stretching longer than anyone wants to admit, where every day feels provisional, and every tomorrow waits to decide what it will be. The city begins to thin without ever emptying. By August 1603, you can feel it in the spaces between footsteps. York does not fall silent. but its sounds lose their confidence. Bells toll more often now, sometimes 5, sometimes 7 times in a morning, depending on the parish. At Stolovs, the burial ground expands beyond its usual edges. The clerk records weeks where 30, then 40 names are added. Ink grows cramped. Graves do not. You stop asking who has died. The answers come too quickly. Instead, you ask who is still here. The list is shorter than it was in spring. Children vanish from streets first, kept indoors or sent away if relatives will take them. Apprentices sleep in workshops rather than crowded homes. The city rearranges itself around fear quietly, without ever calling it that. By September, the gates feel heavier. Micklegate Bar closes more often, sometimes for hours at a time. Travelers are questioned sharply. Some are turned away outright. 40 days becomes the number everyone knows, even if no one can say where it truly begins or ends. A man can look healthy at the gate and be dead a week later. Numbers promise certainty, but the plague ignores arithmetic when it shows. You notice how belief settles into routine. Fasting days are observed more strictly. Processions are cancelled, then cautiously resumed, then cancelled again. Some say prayer gathers protection. Others say crowds gather death. Both speak with conviction. Neither can prove anything. What matters is that everyone is trying to do something, because doing nothing feels like surrender. By October, the cold returns. Fires burn longer. Windows stay shut. Smoke thickens the air, mixing with rotten damp wool. Death slows slightly, not because the city is safer, but because fewer people are left to take. The weekly totals dip from their height. 20 becomes 15. 15 becomes 10. Hope creeps back, cautious and ashamed of itself. How do we know the city changes here? Because records shift tone. Parish accounts note fewer burials, more repairs. Money once paid to watch infected houses is redirected to mend roads and walls. Court sessions resume briefly, then falter again. Normality tests the ground like a man stepping onto ice, ready to pull back at the first crack. By winter, the plague loosens its grip. Not gone, never gone, but quieter. York has lost perhaps 2,000 people in this year, 1 in 6, maybe more. No one agrees on the exact number. Precision feels obscene now. What matters is absence. Empty bed, unclaimed tools. Houses that will never reopen. You walk through streets you have known all your life and realize you are seeing them differently. Stranger, the city has survived, but it has not returned. It never does. Something has shifted inward, in how people judge risk, how they measure closeness, how quickly they listen for danger in ordinary sounds. By the time spring approaches again, markets are fuller, bells steadier, voices louder. Outsiders might think the city healed, but you know better. York carries this year inside it, the way a body carries a scar, no longer painful, but never forgotten. You still notice when a cart moves too slowly. You still count bells without meaning to. This is how the city goes on. Not by forgetting, but by absorbing what nearly broke it. The plague recedes, memory stays, and somewhere beneath the noise of life returning, York keeps listening, just in case.